Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Filter. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. I say that because everyone is a special guest to me. I'm joined by Lewis Forrest. Now, some of our topics range from family, health, all kinds of different things, but Lewis and I are going to talk about maybe one of our most important jobs of our lives. And no, it's not my job as a career counselor. It's not Lewis's job in higher ed. I think the most important jobs of our lives are being great fathers and role models to our children. And so this is a very important topic to both of us. But before we jump into the topic, Lewis, give the listeners a little, introduction of yourself.
So, hey, Phil, good evening, man. Thank you for letting me finally be on the Positive Filter. I know it's taking us a minute, but I appreciate it. So I'm Lewis Forrest. I born and raised in Virginia, Prince William County. I'm a father of three, married to my wife 20 years. I have two girls, 18, 16 almost, and my son is 13 years old. I've been in education long time, so that's a little bit about my family background and just kind of, where I'm from. And, I agree with you, man. It's an important topic, you know what I mean? Being fathers, being husbands, being parents. And yeah, man, this is an important topic, especially just because you look at so many, we're in higher ed, man, and we're just in education. You see so many, people that are looking at us as role models, and this is one of the categories that's important.
I totally agree, and I remember we were when we were discussing the topics, and we have both some ideas, and we're going to talk about things that work, and you were like, Phil, let's not talk about work, and it got us thinking because I think you're right, maybe. Sometimes with the work-life balance and things, we think that, we put a lot of importance on our roles and our jobs and getting money and bringing money home to our families. But, like I said, when we took a step back and you proposed a new topic of being fathers, and specifically what we're going to talk about is being fathers to biracial children, when you took that step back, it gave me time to reflect on this is probably our most important, role for me. Obviously, for me, it's husband first, then father, because obviously, if you're not, for me, if I'm not aligned with my wife, then I probably can't be aligned to be a father. But it's equally as important. It's very important to me. And so, we are both fathers of children that we will say are biracial. Maybe, when they grow up, they don't have to click that other box or whatever the box is when they do the demographics. Right. But my wife is white and Caucasian or whatever term you want to use, and I am black, African American, all the above for myself. What about you, Mr. Forrest?
Well, my wife is, of mixed heritage too. Her father is white, and her mother, rest in peace, was Filipino. So, she comes from a mixed heritage background, and I'm black, African American. So we kind of have some similarities in, our spouses, how they, from the heritages that they come from, and then of course, where we come from.
Right. And kind of touching base. I mean, I like to say that obviously Northern Virginia is a melting pot, and yeah. I definitely feel very blessed and lucky because ideally for us, this topic maybe not be that big of a deal. Like everyone's like, okay, whatever, biracial children, whatever, or mixed families or mixed cultures or interreligious, interracial, interreligious. That's maybe not as atypical in Northern Virginia, but for the greater nation or the United States or different pockets of even Virginia, this might be a challenge for some people, and that's something that some people we get to take advantage or I get to take for granted. But before we go there, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, man, I think you're right to a degree, and I also think I think it's powerful that two African American men are able to spend some time talking about being parents, right? And because it's an important role, and I don't ever think we want to have that role be diminished in any way, right? Because there's challenges. There's also some really beautiful things that happen in being in this role as a husband and a father. So I think it's just cool, man, that two brothers get to talk about being dads, right? And how important that is. And then you layer in, kind of the complexity of, being in an interracial marriage and raising kids that, that are going to end up figuring out how they identify. So it's really, while on its face it might look like, oh, okay, we live in Northern Virginia, it's no big deal because you see a lot of it. But to that same token, there's some intricacies about the whole relationship and that some people just can't see on its face.
Now, you brought up a good point. What are some intricacies, man, using big words, SAT words on me, but what are some of those things, intricacies, okay, I'm not even going to edit it out, but what are some of those things that you that are below the surface that people don't think about so relatively, Well,
I mean, I think I look back early when, my wife and I were starting to date, and then when we had our first child, and just having to sort of deal with other people's reactions. Not that we really cared, but other people's reactions and people sort of looking like what is who does the baby belong to, and just different comments that people would make. And so as parents, you kind of you have to navigate those things, right? And so those are some of the things that I talk about. And even traveling around, and people that aren't used to seeing interracial couples and mixed kids, and the looks and the questions and all that stuff. So I think it's those are some of the sort of things that I was talking about.
True. It brings up a story to mind, when Bennett, both my kids, I would say have a melanin deficiency.
Well, mine did it first too, but it worked itself out.
Yeah, but both our boys, Miles, I swear, he looks like a straight up white baby. And Bennett, I think Bennett, when he was first born, he had a very, what we say, Asian look, like a very Mongolian look.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically one time I was walking my dog and wearing Bennett, straight up wearing him in a boba, the little carriers.
Yeah.
And woman said, "Oh, so cute. Is that your son?" And I paused and I thought, I was like, "What?"
Yeah. I'm not just carrying a random kid.
I'm carrying a random baby. But then I could think about maybe some other things, like maybe she thought I was a caregiver or a babysitter or a cousin or something. But at the same time, it was just it still caught me off guard, because I was like, I even answered yeah. It caught me, it was so off guard. I was like, yeah, this is my son that I'm wearing and walking around the neighborhood. And I just never thought of that. And I quite honestly, sometimes I still think about that, when I pick him up from school and stuff. I think sometimes it's more relatively easy for people to identify Maggie as their mother, but I think when I walk around with my boys, I still get a couple of looks like, who is this guy with these kids?
Yeah, and I have similar stories, man. you'll be places, or you go pick your kids up, and people kind of hesitate, like, is that's your dad, or you're his father? Like yeah, you may not know that, but it's just the sort of hesitancy that people have because they don't make the connection, right?
Right. I didn't take it personally, and I wasn't really offended.
Nah.
I was kind of more like caught off guard.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more offended if it was like in the tone, all about body language and stuff. It was just straight up a normal question. It wasn't like a accusatory. Like I saw recently in a couple months back where this guy was a black he was a black daycare provider, and he had two straight up white kids in his car, and the woman called.
Oh yeah, and the lady called the police on him.
Yeah, so that might have been a different tone, right? That definitely set the tone of something, that I haven't experienced or not worried about. I mean, not so worried about in this area. But on the flip side, like that could be probably super detrimental to your esteem if that was not just if you weren't just a caregiver, but those are actually your kids, and someone called the police on you. You know what I'm saying? That would suck.
Yeah. And I imagine, it could happen in some scenarios. I mean, it hasn't happened to me, but and I remember, I think when we first met, man, and I think that's how we started even talking about this topic. You were thinking about, your sons and how they were, kind of grow up and identify and how to have those conversations and things with them. Yeah. Have you put like more thought into that, or you're like, what has that been like now that they're starting to get, they're not, teenagers, but they're getting older?
No, I mean you're almost at the tail end. I'm at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You have them almost on the way out. I'm on the way into schools. But I remember that. I think it was definitely a university life thing, right? And I remember I went up to the mic and I said, they were talking about like what concerns you have or something. I spoke, and I was quite candid with like a room full of people, and I said, I think about what my children will be perceived as black or white, or how they'll be treated. I'm cool with how I'm treated. The world and the influence on me. That's cool. Like hate and discrimination, I feel more equipped to deal with it because I'm an adult. But I hate that helplessness feeling where I can do as much to protect my children in their own home, but then when I send them out into the world, I can't protect them from everything. And one of the things I can't protect them from is racism and those questions of identity, right? And I can affirm who they are, and I can affirm that I love them, and affirm that they're very blessed, and they have two different things they can pull from, heritages, and they should be proud of that, and they can learn a little bit about their Irish side and their Jewish side, and their black side, and all these things. They're very special, but I still kind of dread the day where they're like, I don't know, if they go to a school in some instance and some little kid says, you can't play with me because you're black, or your hair's weird, like just some kind of racial aggression that might not even be full out racist. Maybe it might just be a microaggression or something small, but that hits my kid's self-esteem. And I'm still worried about that and how I'll prepare myself for that. Because like I said, I can handle it for myself, but I'll probably be really, really hurt if it happens to my kids. And I remember afterwards you came and talked to me. I think it's what you were like, yo, what you said to me spoke to me, and then you shared with me the pledge of a biracial kid, which I'll let you read about. But it's really always in my mind. And another thing is, I think as my son, my 3-year-old son, or he's about to be 4, is starting to understand it. That's the part that's where the conversation's starting. So he says, Daddy has brown skin, Mommy has pink skin. I don't know where he gets that from. Pink skin. Yeah. And then if my friend is darker, like one of my friends is darker, my friend is black. So like there's black, brown, and pink. Those are his that's his spectrum of colors. I didn't know what he says he is. He says he's tan.
Yeah, yeah.
So daddy's brown.
Yeah, that's what my kids would say. They would say like brownish, tannish, or brownish, blackish.
Yeah, I'm tan.
And
So
and
so he
and mommy is white. Mommy was whitish, tannish.
white is tannish, but they understand, I guess, the spectrum of colors. But I think overall he understands the concept that he's a person of color. He's not just white or pink. As I don't know where he gets pink from. Mommy's
but that's
pink.
how kids do, man. That's how they start to make, like, those associations, and that's like, you can tell the beginning of him really starting to figure it out.
Right. So, and then we have normal conversation. We try to, we got some books. We got this book, I think, that was written by Taye. I'll put it in the show notes when I find it. It's a book about his interracial son for kids. So we try to have, we want to have conversations with it. We're not going to dance around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember when our kids were little, we used to have this. There's this book, and it's called "I'm Black and I'm Unique."
Yeah.
And it showed like all the different, skin tones of black people, all the different, hair textures, eye colors, just all the variations of what folks look like, and just in a way that a kid could understand. But at the end of it, it really talked about how beautiful they were and how unique they were, and associated different things with like really positive and like royal type things. So that was a book that we read our kids when they were little, and I think it really helped them kind of see, like, I can still embrace this, but I'm unique in a way, and I can see all the different ways that people look, and not really, like you said, not really come to that point where they're like ashamed or questioning, at least not at that age.
Now, I want to speak because, like I said, you have the experience longer than me. Can you give an example that the fear that I have of maybe an instance that happened with your child or any of your children, that is one of my fears, and how you handled it? So, like, the kids going to school or being told they have to act black or white, like, how did you handle that situation?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot of experience. I think one that I can remember is, I think my daughter was in middle school. Maybe she was in 6th grade.
Okay.
And they have to bring these forms home, right? And the forms ask you to check a box.
Yeah.
And so she came home with 2 of her friends, and her friends were they're Latina.
Yeah.
They were twins, and they were all upset, and we were like, like, what's going on? And they were like, they came home with the form, and they were like, this form, it doesn't allow us to like check the boxes that we want. And they're like, this is not fair, but the school is telling us we got to turn it in. So they really wanted an explanation about, well, if I don't fit into any of these boxes, then I really shouldn't fill the form out. So that's one of the ones that I can remember, and just having to have that conversation about, so what do you want to, what boxes do you want to check, or how do you identify? I mean, that's the, at the end of the day, that's what's important. How you look at yourself, it's a form, but it doesn't really drive who you are and what you think about yourself. And so, I'm fortunate. I have my kids, just how they are, they're pretty strong thinkers. And so they were ready to go back to the school and ask some questions, about why do we have to do this, or explain this form. So, but being their dad, they still had to give some, some context to it, so they could, understand, like, yeah, this is a good time for you to really think about, like, who are you, right?
Right. Did they go to what was the conclusion?
Well, they, it was one of those school forums, so they, I believe they checked it out the best they could, and checked multiple boxes and kept it moving. But it was the conversation that forum kind of forced us to have, right?
Right.
Which we know, which is a good thing, and it's sad that they kind of have to fit into boxes and things, but it gave us the time to have a conversation about so how do you see yourself, right? And what are you gonna do about it? You can ask me questions, but you can also ask some questions at your school too.
So was the school resistant? Did they say we didn't like this, and the school said my bad and made it better?
No, I mean it was a general forum. I think it was the forum for residents. So in the end, everybody has to fill out the form.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of discussion, but it was cool that they even thought enough about or had questions enough about help me understand why I got to fit into these boxes.
I like that. And I think it's a good leeway. So because you have raised such wonderful thinkers and children, which I know you'll do, can you, I remember after I spoke up and we started having this conversation, which connected us, you shared with me a poem, and it was The Pledge of a Biracial Child. And I thought that was really powerful, one, and I really appreciate you for immediately walking up to me and sharing that with me. But for the listeners, can you recite that poem, and then we can discuss a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can read it, and I'll say it about that day, man. What you said really resonated with me because, I mean, to our comments at the beginning of the show, while these interracial relationships and biracial kids might be just a kind of a normal thing in the area we live, dads have real concerns, right? About how we're gonna have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm gonna say to my son or what I'm gonna say to my daughter, about the world. And so it automatically made me think of this because I learned about this biracial Bill of Rights. And when I was in graduate school, I was taking a multicultural class, and this is one of the things that was shared in the class. So I'll go ahead and read it. It's called the Bill of Rights for People of Mixed Heritage, and it's by Dr. Maria P. Root. And so it's the Bill of Rights for People of Mixed Heritage, and it says, I have the right not to justify my existence in the world, not to keep the races separate within me, not to justify my ethnic legitimacy, and not to be responsible for people's discomfort with my physical or ethnic ambiguity. I have the right to identify myself differently than strangers expect me to identify myself differently than how my parents identify me, to identify myself differently than my brothers and sisters, to identify myself differently in different situations. I have the right to create a vocabulary to communicate about being multiracial or multi-ethnic, to change my identity over my lifetime and more than once, to have loyalties and identification with more than one group of people, and to freely choose who I am, to freely choose who I befriend and love. And so, yeah, I think it was really powerful, and I've shared this, with my kids and when they were younger, and probably need to reintroduce it again, as they're still growing. But yeah, this is something I wanted to share with you because your comments made me immediately think about this when you were talking that day.
Well, I mean, that was very powerful. I love I have the right. You mean gives you ownership and empowerment. It's not anyone else's choices. It's your choices. It's your right. So off the break, just the fact that you're saying I have the right is giving your children empowerment. I love that. And then lastly, I love just all the different rights that you have. It makes sense. And these are they're ways that I feel like you can combat all the things that I was worried about. So if a kid says, hey, you got to sit with us, you got to act this way to be black. Well, the person would say, I have the right to choose what I do and how I identify and what is black and what is white. I feel like that's a very powerful statement.
Yeah, and
I love how
even as a
it definitely drives. Go ahead.
and even as a parent, right? Like I can't choose for my kids
Yeah.
like how they identify. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I get that too, and I only have a couple, not say conflicts, but that is my parental conflict. Is my parental conflict is this? Okay, for me, if you have it's almost like the one drop rule, which I don't. I'm saying I'm an advocate, but the world sees anyone that has any color as a person of color.
Right.
So my kid, no matter what my kid identifies as, my son's never gonna be able to say, "I am Bennett Wilkerson. I'm white." Like you're not. I'm sorry, you're not a
Right.
white person. So that would be my only combat with that. And as you can see, most people, and I'm not gonna say like lean or whatever, but most people are viewed as black or people of color when they're mixed. For instance, J. Cole, my favorite rapper, he is biracial, but most people just think of J. Cole as a black rapper. Barack Obama is a mixed president, but what do we claim him? What do you black folks claimed him? We claim Barack Obama as the first black president. So while they may have that choice, I don't know. I just think that society and maybe even the parents are still doing it. And I don't know if we're doing it as a protective measure. I do it as a protective measure because I kind of say to my son all the time or ingrain, like, I'm glad he's saying he's tan because I want my son to know you're a person of color. You probably going to experience throughout your life instances where you don't have full white privilege and I don't know, maybe protect yourself to, in case, like I said, protect yourself from the world of racism.
Yeah, and that's going to be probably like impossible to do. And like I know for my kids, they choose they really embrace their Filipino heritage, right? But they overall identify as being black, and then sometimes they say, well, I'm mixed, or they say I'm Blasian, or they say, and so there are some times where, they really embrace their Filipino side and, the things about the culture, and they're really proud of it. And culturally and like socially, they're mostly, black. They, their social circles are black, and that's not by any design. That's just by their comfort level, right? And so that's how they, are finding what their identity is. And so, but a lot of it, like you said, a lot of it does have to do with like parenting and what we expose them to, and how we talk to them about who they are and what the world looks like and everything. So those are the things that kind of help them figure it out. But as they get older, and you'll probably see this too, you'll start to see like who are the kids that they're hanging with, or what types of music do they like, and what are the type things that they're gravitating towards, and how are they like seeing the world, right? What kind of lens are they seeing the world from? And so those are the things that are really like out of our control. We can share certain things with them and experiences and give them this and that, but they're living in a world, they're going to school and hanging out with kids and things like that, and so they'll start to develop their own identities that we have to, really support them in.
Yeah, and also I think that's other thing too is like I realize that as a parent, sometimes my anxieties or my fears is what is being manifested on my son, right? Like all those things, like and like my dad always say yes sir, no sir. If the cops pull you over, put your hands on the steering wheel and don't make any noise. Things like that.
That's
right?
real.
And that is not coming from. That's coming from my dad's fears, and I think that's like I said, a protective measure of me. My dad is trying to protect me from instances of the world, not necessarily being fair or just. And
Yeah.
so I had that tug for me too. Like I want to have the sense that I don't want to limit my kids for anything. You know,
Right.
there's no job, there's no education level, there's nothing you cannot obtain. Um, but at the same time, I want you to be present of obstacles. So
Of course.
I don't want to shoot down your dreams. I just want you to be, while you have these dreams, I want you to be cognizant of structures and systems which may be obstacles for your dreams. But your
Like,
dreams should be your dreams.
yep. And that's a product of living in, the society that we live in, where race does matter. You know what I mean? And and I can remember there was a young man that we knew that got into a situation and ended up getting arrested. And from how I saw it, it is an African American young man, and it really wasn't fair. He was actually trying to stop some other kids from stealing, and he ended up getting caught up in it, and the police arrested him too. And he was a friend of my daughter, and it really upset her. And she came home and she told my younger son, she was really upset, man. And she told him, like, you have to be mindful of how you move, out there. And he was little, so I don't know if he really understood, but she was saying it out of concern, because she saw how her friend got caught up, with the police and everything. And she wanted my son to know, like you said, you have to be mindful of your surroundings. You have to just make sure you're not putting yourself in situations where things can happen. And I think that was around the time of, like, all the Trayvon Martin situations and things were going on. So everybody was, they was really in the forefront. But those are the things as fathers, of African American fathers of children who, whether they're biracial or not, some people are going to see them as black.
Right.
And so we do have to equip them like your dad equipped you and my dad equipped me, with these sort of safeguards around how to move, when the police are around, or being respectful or carrying yourself a certain way, because, we have to have that protective layer for them.
Right. And in a little pivot is that, like, my great Uncle Vivian just passed away, but he was instrumental, and he wanted to leave some wisdom for my cousin. So he wrote this letter, which was so powerful it got featured in the newspaper. So I'm not going to read this full letter, but there's things in this letter that kind of revert back to what we were saying, and I want to just read a little bit about this excerpt, which I'll put the whole article. But one of the things that really spoke out to me in this letter, he said, "Don't let the color of your skin hold you back. Realize your own potential and meet your goals. Listen, Michael, standards, values, and principles of life do not come in colors. Study hard. Life's battles are not worked out on street corners. Continue to attend church and don't drop out of school. Church and education are the part of your survival kit. Blacks in America could not have survived the social, economic, and political forces cast against us without a rich religious heritage and without getting smart about life and history." And maybe some people might have some opposition to, like, church and all those things, but I believe that having faith in a greater being was very powerful for Black community, and is very powerful for me. But also the power of educating yourself, and the power of education as means to combat the systems that are against you. So, regardless of generational things, my great uncle is speaking some real knowledge that, like, as I said earlier, not letting the color of your skin hold you back from your goals, but equipping yourself with tools. And for me, I think one of the things that I want to equip my son with is those tools, like he said, maybe a religious foundation, a educational foundation, and specifically like a thirst for knowledge and being smart. I think the thing that we can tie them together is that your kids became independent thinkers, and that education was a way for you to help combat those forces of make a choice about race or discuss race, is because they're able to read and listen and have discussions and use their brain um, to be smart. And I think that's what really spoke to me when I read that letter.
Yeah, your uncle dropped some good nuggets of wisdom, man. That that's the stuff that's important, man. To be able to pass that wisdom along. That's a gift, man. So you have that, you can pass it to your son.
Yeah.
Just like I have things in my family that my grandparents passed on to my dad, and he's passed on to me, and my grandmother passed stuff on to me as well. So those things are important. Family's important, man, and having especially when you have kids, period, but when you have biracial kids and just having family and people around them that can talk to them about history. My mom talks to me all the time. Like, she's like, it's important that your kids know about their history.
Mm-hmm.
And, just how my mom and dad were raised, and, how my grandparents were raised, and, the sacrifices that they made, and how they kind of navigated through, the really tough times of segregation and all of that. So, it's awesome that your uncle had that letter and was able to, share it, because that knowledge and that wisdom, it's priceless.
Yeah. I mean, what are some ways that I think that some of the ways having a relationship with his grandparents is one, but also pictures, sharing pictures, and I really want to start some way of doing like an oral history project or something, like, just because I don't want that knowledge to go away. There's so much knowledge. Like, I wish I could have gone back, like podcasting, whatever, but just not even a podcast, just straight up get an audio recorder, because I know that my grandfather and my great uncle Vivian had so many amazing stories that are just in my head, but I wish I could have got them down. Oh.
Yeah, but it's helping you be a better dad already. I know you wish you could have more and more, knowledge and record it, but it's really they've done their job. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're really sharing some things with you that are foundational for, how you're going to raise your sons and the stuff you're going to instill in them that are going to be important. It may be a little different, right? Because the times are different and the times are changing.
Right.
But some of those things are just timeless, right? Like, having some ethics, having some morals and respect, and working hard and getting an education. I mean, my grandparents said the same thing. My grandma used to always say, make sure you get an education.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are just things that, from generation to generation, they're just important. It's going to be, it was important in, 1940, and it's important in 2018.
Yes. Education, grades.
I'm 2019. I'm a year back.
Yeah, like, as a means to escape things, as a means to elevate yourself, was to be educated. And quite often, especially for earlier generations, uh, the blue collar people didn't have the opportunity, so they made sure their kids studied hard, to get out or to elevate themselves.
Yeah, we're super fortunate, man.
I mean, today.
Like, look at where we work, right? All the technologies and, your social network, your professional network, your kids are going to benefit, like, greatly from having a dad who works on a college campus.
Yeah. All that knowledge.
Yeah, and just being around it. What'd you say?
I said I never thought about that until, like, really, like, when I started really enjoying my job and working, like, how fortunate I am that the focus of my job is knowledge and information, and like how much access I have to it as a higher ed professional, like how much I can just, hey, I learned this today. Like it's cool. Sometimes I realize I bring so much home that I'm learning, and I'm not even in classes, just being in higher ed.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a long class that's never ending. You know,
Exactly.
going up like trainings and all these safe zone training, all these trainings and my knowledge base. Like I feel like I'm just getting smarter, and I'm not even having to enroll in class, and I don't have to show papers or anything.
Right. You don't have to write no papers. Yeah, exactly.
No, but I think my job is like an easy class, and for someone, I never considered myself a lifelong learner, but I feel like inadvertently I am becoming one just because of the environment that I find myself working in. And
Yeah.
that's different than a lot of environments. Like I always think like if you were a school teacher, maybe you'll get some information, but like the fact that we're on a college campus, it forces you. Like if you're in other occupations, if you want to be a learner, you have to put a little bit more effort in than being on a college campus because it just surrounds you so much.
Yeah. It is different, man. It is. And cause I was thinking about one of the times that we ran into each other in the hall, and you had your son in the little carrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was knocked out. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but that's cool because people are seeing like you're at work, and you're I know you weren't really you weren't in that day and things where you're trying to work things out, but that says like a whole lot about just you as a person, right? Like that's just part of your makeup. Like I got to be at work, I got to have my son, so I'm gonna strap him up, I'm gonna bring him to work. And
yeah, I remember that. That was the day where we had a little bit of a care issue, so I had to bring him with me. And I was like, I know if I brought Miles with me, he'll fall asleep, so I can get some work done.
right, yeah.
He fell asleep, and I got some work done. But then when I was here, I was like, well, I'm gonna walk around and show off my boys. So I showed them off.
Exactly. But he's gonna, because when he's like 6, 7, 8, and maybe he has to come to work with dad, or there's something on campus that you bring him to.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be like really cool for him.
Yeah.
It's an experience that not every kid gets to have.
Yeah, go to college campus. Yeah, one of the things I also noticed too inadvertently is that I understand that and the responsibility as a black male that I'm not only a father to my kids in my presence in my actions, but I'm also I would say a father or role model to other black kids. Um,
Absolutely.
and so I do. Besides being the biracial thing, I definitely take that responsibility very seriously because for certain instances, I might be some white kid's first exposure to a person of color, and so I take that very seriously. That when I see like my friends' kids, that I'm friendly and welcoming or cool because I want to combat the image or some images they might have of black people. They're like, nah, man, like Phil don't act like that. And it's funny because in the neighborhood or with some other kids, they call me Uncle Phil, like I'm the neighborhood uncle. And I take that responsibility very, very seriously.
You're the new Uncle Phil?
Yeah, hopefully I'm not gonna get that fat, but yeah, yeah. And I legit, people would say, "Hey, Uncle Phil," and then people look at me, and it's like this little blonde hair, blue-eyed kid. But I take that responsibility is just in regards to my actions and the way I walk and carry myself and being friendly or whatever. That not only for my own children is that we as black men and fathers we have a lot of responsibility in not only our verbal verbal talking and all that, but our just nonverbal actions and how we carry ourselves. And so I definitely think about that. I'm very cognizant of that when I'm around kids, especially around like young kids.
Yeah, young kids, and even where we work, right? I mean, we got kids from all over the world, all over the country,
Yeah.
and so for them to have a positive view of like a professional black man who's also a husband, who's also a father, it can make a difference in how folks perceive you, and then the next person that they meet, it'll make a difference.
Yeah. Man, this dropping some knowledge, man. I'm feeling I'm saying this is why we had to get on the podcast together. Like, I'm glad that we're both going back and forth, but this is exactly what I envision talking about because, like, as I said earlier, I would say regardless of job, when someone asks me, like, what's my main identity, or, when we do some, like, when I went to safe zone training and they're like, what do you identify as? I mean, before being a black person, I definitely was like, my main identity to me, which was so important, was being a dad. I don't care, like, when I look in the mirror and I say, who am I? Like, who am I really? And I maybe saying, like, people tease me or say, yo, Phil, you act white sometimes, all that, which I don't really care. I mean, it used to bother me, but now I would be more upset if someone told me that when they looked at me that I was a terrible father.
Right. Yeah, that would hurt.
That would hurt. That'd be like I would swing on you automatically.
Yeah.
we just fighting, and I can't fight, so I'll just take an L anyway. But I wouldn't care. I would be out of character if someone questioned my parenting.
Yeah, that's a serious job, man. It's a serious responsibility. We put in, love and sweat and time, and I'm with you, man. I'll be real hurt and want to fight somebody if they say you're a terrible dad without even knowing what my dad resume looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even question. I mean, I see that y'all on like those reality shows when the girls call each other bad moms and stuff. I'm whispering it on sight, like they like, oh man, Philip lost because that like I said for me, I mean, even my wife, like even if someone was like, I mean, I'd probably be just as upset if someone said you're a bad husband. That'd make me upset. But for some reason, when someone said, "Man, Phil, you're not, treating your wife right. You can work on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're right." But if someone said I was a bad dad, I legit think that would really dig a knife into me. Quite honestly, like ever since my wife just said I am pregnant, I was like ready. And like,
yeah, your mind clicks, right?
Yeah, I would say currently in this job, this is the most career fulfilled I feel. I feel like I found my niche, and I love it, and I'm really happy where I work. But underlying, if I was never happy, I never had a dream job, but I always knew one day I'd be a dad. Quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like that, I had that vision. I never had a vision. Like I never had a vision of being a firefighter or a police officer. But I always had like the dream of a house and kids. I didn't know what they looked like in my dreams, but like I always wanted to have kids. Like always wanted to be a father. And if I couldn't be a father to my own kids, like whether like something happened, I think some way in some shape or form my involvement with kids would come up. Like I think I would find myself in education anyway, because I like just being around. I like helping people. I like helping kids. I like helping people under me. I like passing on knowledge, or just being a helper and making someone someone that needed help. And usually kids need help. But it just I don't know. And then at the same time, people say all this stuff to me like, Phil, like you. It was like the only time I felt like, quite honestly, when my kids were born and Bennett, like I don't have my shoes tied. I don't know. I can't get myself together. I can't dress myself. But like when it comes to like my boys, it just clicks. Like I just figure it out. Like okay, I'll just put them on. Like I never thought about it. I didn't think about it. I'm like okay, we'll figure it out.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna make you a great dad, yo. That's what's gonna make you, like you said earlier, like you were kind of worried about, how to prepare them. Like you're gonna figure it out, because you already want to be a great dad, right? And you already have like the compassion for it and the desire for it, because you put some thought into it, and you already have, sounds like you already have some good examples of what being a good and great father are, and so your boys they're gonna be straight because you have that, and not everybody, and I'm sure you have friends and I have friends that, not everybody's a good dad.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but your boys are gonna be, in good hands because that's something that's important to you, and it's not important to everybody.
Yeah, I find that. Yeah, and that's part's troubling me too. Is when I hear people that don't find it important to them. But I mean, I can't be in their lane. Um, and all the stories or some stories of absentee dads. I couldn't imagine that. In general. I mean, but it is what it is. But this is all cyclical because I mean, I have to give my dad's awesome. My dad at the end was shout out. It's all cyclical. So
yeah, shout out, Dad.
Yeah, shout out to my dad, but it's all cyclical. I mean, obviously, I want to tell the young men out there that if you're a new father that didn't have a good father, you can break that cycle and be the father that you wish you had. Just know that if you didn't have a good father, you can be the good father so that your son becomes a good father. It's very important that you set the example. Um, Not that you need that example to be it for yourself, but it gives someone a leg up and someone to model after. It's easier for me to model this because I have a good example of my dad. I bet I wouldn't be as confident in it if I had an absentee dad.
Because your dad and even your uncle, right, passed on certain things to you that you can use. I mean, that's with anything, man. The people, as you pass along knowledge, you kind of move differently because you understand how things are supposed to be. But I think, what you said, man, is right on. I just, for me, man, I just don't think that sometimes dads get like the credit that they deserve, sometimes, because it's not an easy job. And I don't mean to put it in that category as a job, but the role of being a dad is, it's not always easy, but it's super important. And just hearing you like take it you take it seriously and you do the best that you can.
It's not always easy, and it's not always fun, and it's not always what you see on social media either.
Right, all the pictures, right? Yeah.
You see all the fun stuff on social media. It ain't always that, man. Sometimes I'm like, damn, this one's trash. But I told someone the other day too, like, if I don't get my credit, I'm gonna take my credit. So like you ever see those like NFL drafts and all that stuff, and the guy's like, I want to thank my mama and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You will hear me in the audience go, and your father too.
Yeah, like, boy, you better shout me out.
Yeah, I might even go on stage and take the hat and put it on. like we did it. I was like, we did it.
No doubt.
I'm not shy. I'm not a shy person. I will go on stage.
No, I even tell my kids, I'm like, yo, I'm the best dad you ever had. They're like, we never had another dad. I'm like, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I am like the best dad, yo.
Yeah. I'm gonna start saying that too. Like, you lucky to have me.
Yeah.
You blessed. So we're really cranking out. So this is the part of the show. If you listen, we call it Shot for Shot. Marty, shout out to you, Marty, because of you got me a good segment on the show that I never thought of. But it's called Shot for Shot. It could be any question that you want to ask me. I ask you any question. Totally off topic, has nothing to do with what we were talking about, and you just answer honestly. Do you want to go first, or I go first?
I'm gonna take my shot first.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. What is who's the person that you want to interview that you haven't interviewed?
Oh, that I haven't? Okay. I'm doing all different people on campus and people on, and I got some guests, um, lined up, all my friends. But aim for the stars, man. I want to do someone famous one day. That'd be dope. I have a bunch of famous people. Uh, it is, I don't know, it'd just be so cool if I was ever to reach the level of podcast like Joe Rogan or something, where I can
Yeah.
interview J. Cole or like, yeah, J. Cole. I would say J. Cole now. So I'm gonna have to tag him in this jump because
Yeah, tag him. Hey, J. Cole, if you listening, man,
okay. No,
we need to hook up that interview.
It'd be three rappers. It'd be J. Cole, Big Crit, or Kendrick Lamar. I call them the three wise men of rap. So the three leaders. But if it
Hey, man, you bound to get one of
three.
them, man. You bound to get one of them.
I've seen J. Cole twice in concert. I've seen Big Crit once. I haven't seen Kendrick Lamar. Um, I like all kinds of rap. Shoot, I might even say I like to interview 21 Savage. I like him too. But I would definitely want to interview someone famous, but also someone famous in music.
Yeah.
Because I love the creative aspect of someone that brings energy to music and creates. I find it the coolest thing. I was telling my friend earlier that um, I I love to live the life of a rapper without the talent. So I have a bunch of hooks. I gotta play them for you. I'll play them for you when I see you next. I randomly, when I get bored, I make rap hooks and just basically the hooks, nothing more. No full verses, no bars, just the hooks, and they're all trash. But, but it's how but that would be. I would love to live that lifestyle responsibly. Like just
There
go
you
on
go.
stage, rap, and then like have a real house and like not blow all my money. That's what I would want. So that's it. So I'm gonna tag like three rappers now because of this. You see on Twitter.
Tag them all, and one of them gonna respond. We're gonna claim that.
No, they gonna. None of them gonna respond. But we'll see. That'd be cool. All right.
So you take a shot now.
Yeah. So I think one of the benefits of interracial relationships is exposures to other cultures. For instance, because of Maggie and her parents, I've been exposed to a lot of Jewish culture. And some of my favorite things about Jewish culture, some of my favorite things about other culture, period, is the food. I love, Passover and all the different food. So if you could say what was one of, the not benefits, what is one of your favorite things about being exposed to your wife's culture, Filipino culture, and would you say Filipino? What else?
She's Caucasian.
Yeah. What are the things that you've been exposed to through your wife's culture that you appreciate the most or that you like a lot?
Well, I'll tell a quick story. My when we were first dating, I used to swing by her parents' house and see if she was home, and her mom would always invite me in, and she would make adobo chicken, adobo chicken and rice. Make me a big old plate. We crack open a beer, have a beer together. I said, man, I could get used to this. And and my wife, she, incredible cook. Adobo chicken, pancit, lumpia. I mean, just all the stuff that she can make. So that's definitely some of the benefits, especially because she can make those dishes like so well. So yeah, man, that got me because I like to eat, man. So you put a plate of food in front of me, like I'm sold.
Yeah, that's it. I love it. The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Yeah.
Have you gone to the Philippines before?
No, never been. That's on our bucket list. Would love to take. No, she was born here, and so she's never been either. So it's on our list, man, of things to do.
And then when you say white, I mean white people have nationalities. What part of white are her family from?
They're from Cleveland, and they're Slovakian, but they're regular American folks straight from Cleveland. Shout out to folks in Cleveland, So but most of her identity is around the Filipino side of her family.
Yeah, because my wife's parents, her mother is Irish and her father is Jewish, and we had the fortunate instance when my wife graduated college. We went together. We went to Ireland, so we got to check out Ireland, which was dope.
Oh, that's nice.
I'd like to go back again because we went to Dublin, and Dublin was pretty rough. I want to go to the countryside and see like the real Ireland. You know what I'm saying? Because any big metropolitan area doesn't. You can see like Dublin is like New York. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like any big city. I wanted to see the old cobblestone, you know, roads and stuff like that. So next time I go, I want to go back to Ireland and I want to see like the old cottages and stuff like that, the real history. So
that'd be awesome, man.
And then definitely I appreciate that. So
and be able to take your sons too, right? The whole family to go.
I want to go by myself, so I can. I ain't trying to have them toting around. Maybe I'll take them when they're. If we go back to Ireland, then I only take them when they're 21 or 18 when they can drink with me or something. We can.
Yeah, and they can be responsible for themselves. You don't got to be carrying them around. Yeah.
Do your own thing, I do my own thing, and then we'll meet up. That's when we'll go to Ireland when they can do that. Last random tangent. I have this vision when I get old that like I'm like 80 years old and my boys are to be the ones that take me to the Super Bowl to go see the Redskins finally make the Super Bowl. And I'm like 80 years old or whatever, 90, and I'm in a wheelchair, and they're like, we have with us one of the oldest fans, and I wave my hand, and I got all these kids that are all different. Like, my son married a woman that's Asian, and I have like the whole UN, like all my kids, all these different races put together. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and some random kid and some random person in the audience like, yeah, Uncle Phil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Uncle Phil. Like, you made it, Uncle Phil.
Yeah, like I made it. They finally made the Super Bowl. And they had all these kids with just mixtures, like the whole UN, where everyone's like, all these people related to each other.
They're not all your kids, though, are they? That's a whole lot of kids. They're not all yours, are they?
No, they're going to be like, I'm only having 2. I'm done. So maybe all my grandkids, and my kids, they can have all the multiple kids. You know what I'm saying? They can have the large families of 5 or 6 kids. I'm done. I'm done with 2. But all these grandkids that just spread out, and then all the cousins,
there you go.
All these cousins and all that put together, and then it's like I'm the patriarch of all these cousins and kids, the grandfather, great uncle to all these kids too. That'd be dope. So we're at the end of our show. I want to opportunity. Now we did our shot for shot. This is where I give the guests the opportunity to plug whatever they need to plug, any ventures, anything that they're working on, and then their social media. If people want to follow you or not follow you, whatever your but this is your stuff. And shout out to the people that you appreciate. So the floor is yours. You can say whatever you want.
All right. Well, first of all, man, this has been like a dope conversation, man. And, I appreciate, what you're doing. Like, we haven't known each other like a really long time, man, but I think you're doing exactly what the name of your show is, man. It's positive. And you're reaching a lot of people. You're doing it with love. And so I just want you to know, man, I appreciate you for doing that. Folks can follow me on Twitter at Lou Mister. And I also am getting ready to really launch an educational consulting business. It's called the Forrest Foundation. So there'll be more to come about that. You can look it up at the forrestfoundation.com. And I just wanted to thank you again, man, for having me on the show, and we're gonna do this again, right?
Yeah. Maybe another, couple, another topic. Shout out to your wife and your kids too. I'm gonna shout them out. I'm gonna shout it out for
Definitely.
you.
Shout out to Christine. Shout out to my kids, Shaliri, Naya, Isaiah. Everybody like look for Isaiah, higher level AAU basketball team. We're about to do some good things. So, keep a lookout.
Yeah, and you're not like LeVar Ball, right? Like you're not trying to take over your kid's basketball team, right? You let them play.
Nah, yeah, I let him play, man. He's already like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. Used to ride the bench.
Because if my kids play ball, I already know my extra version. I'm probably gonna be the LeVar Ball of my kids' sports.
Nah, those days are over, bro. I step aside. I'm like, I let them get coached, man. I just enjoy watching, man. And so that's another thing you can look forward to, just enjoying them do stuff like that.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Please, put all the things that you plugged in the show notes so that the listeners can follow along with your journey in your business and your Twitter. Thank you so much, listeners. This was a good episode. If you like this episode, please share it with your family and friends. That's how we get the word out. If you have any voicemails for the podcast, please call 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Or you can just also like the Facebook page or the Twitter or whatever and leave some messages for me. Lewis, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the episode. We'll definitely think of another topic again, and we'll do this again. All right?
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.